So here's from Angel. He says, Padres are now playing like the Padres that expected to contend for the NL West. I think the Padres still have a shot at a wild card spot.
They really do if they can dominate this weekend series. And the Dodgers are coming in here with pitching issues. And the Padres bats have now been supplemented by the trade deadline acquisitions. Padres have to win. I mean, they're playing a 4-game series. If they can go 2-2 and cut the deficit in the wild card race and kind of cut the deficit from the first place Dodgers, they've pushed themselves back into it. But if it becomes Dodger baseball dominating the Padres as they have over the last 3 years, Padres season effectively could be over. I mean, if they lose 3 of the 4, if they get swept, although I don't think that's going to happen, I think the Padres season effectively would be over because they're running out of games on the schedule. But, Dodgers have got huge pitching issues right now with Kershaw not back, with no Urias. Obviously, the kid, Bobby Miller, who's getting the first start on Friday night, has kind of hit a bit of a wall. All the other young kids are really scuffling. Now there's no Noah Syndergaard. Now, granted, they do get Yarborough back. Padres they need to come out smoking and destroy the Dodger pitching staff and get into the Dodger bullpen early in the first game of the series to change the whole thing. So is it a rivalry? Yeah, emotionally, I guess it's a rivalry. I'll be intrigued to see whether the color of the night at Petco is brown and gold or whether there's a lot of blue in that stadium. So you think they're back in it?
I think so. I mean, they're only 1 game under 500. I mean, they haven't been this close to 500 since May. But, I mean, it just sounds pathetic that we're talking about getting to 500. But they're only 4 out of the last wild card spot. So this is definitely very doable. And the bats have been heating up. I mean, now, granted, it was Colorado, but boy, were they killing the ball out there. So that was terrific.
It was Colorado.
But it was Colorado. But, the guys are hitting the ball hard, and you got to appreciate that. So Dodgers, shaky pitching, Padre bats heating up. All I'm saying is that there's a chance. There's a chance, I think, that the Padres could have a nice series here. I think they've got to at least split it. They got to be thinking 3 out of 4 and ideally sweep them.
I just hate to bring up that stat. Padres record against the Dodgers. They've won 2 series. They've lost 14 series dating back to 2020. On we go. From that, where do you want to go next?
All right. So let's go to a Dodger fan here. This is Emmanuel. He says, I feel like the Dodgers are banking on signing Ohtani. If they don't sign Ohtani, then maybe it's time to move on from Friedman.
Well, they've always been bold, but this is the first time they were not bold. But I tend to think the criticism, I mean, people in L.A., the L.A. Times columnists and the fans are just piling on. Look at all the division championships they've won. Look at all the times they've been in the World Series. That's because of the creative genius of Friedman. He did not want to overpay and suck up all the money that he might be able to use November 1st for Showtime Ohtani. Mm-hmm. He did not want to trade away the blue chip golden arms. Now, granted, they're not all ready to pitch at the major league level, but Bobby Miller's a hell of a talent. I am not giving up Bobby Miller to rent Verlander for a season and a half, and I'm not giving him up for half a season or 2 months for the Detroit pitcher, Rodriguez. So I understand why they did what they did, and they kept money in the bank, so they'll have money to go get Ohtani. Although John thinks it's a bottomless pit at Dodger. He doesn't care. It's not your money.
No.
So that's where we are. Let's give them credit, but they are dinged up right now. It's not the same team unless they come in hitting home runs, and they have hit a truckload of home runs all season long, despite the fact their pitching staff has really been ragtag of late.
Well, the Dodger fans are like the Laker fans. They just expect that they're going to get whoever player they want, because they're the LA Dodgers or they're the LA Lakers. So that expectation is set. I don't know. I think Friedman's doing the right thing here. Just like Preller. Preller didn't go bananas at the trade deadline either. So I think they're just being savvy and they're thinking short-term and long-term at the same time.
That's unbelievable. People on live stream, that's a Padre fan giving a vote of confidence to Dodger leadership. How about that?
You just got to respect them. I mean, they're doing the right thing. Hey, scoreboard doesn't lie.
Okay, on we go. Pick another topic here. We got another contributor.
Okay, this is from Manny. He says, ding dong, the Pac-12 is dead. Long live the Big Ten and the Big 12 and the Mountain West.
Obviously, he thinks that Oregon and Washington and probably Cal and Stanford should go. To me, that the heritage and the loyalty should have been front and center as it relates to the Pac-12. I'm so bothered I can't see straight about USC and UCLA. It's almost like I hope the Trojans and the Bruins get on the plane, go to the East Coast, and get their ass kicked for what they did to this conference. This conference, John, goes back to 1915. Do you know how many great teams and great players have come out of, quote, the Conference of Champions? Now, granted, everything today is driven by dollars and TV contracts, and shame on Larry Scott, shame on the presidents and the CEOs of the conference for hiring Larry Scott as commissioner. God, they've let this thing fall apart under his leadership. And Klivkov has walked through the front door at the time where the TV industry is cratering at the same time. Let's see what I would think within a week to 10 days, there's going to be a final proposal made. This is the TV deal. This is the best we can do. And I hope it's not 20 to 25 million if there's only 9 teams left, or whether Oregon and Washington stand pat and say, we'll pick up the flag, follow us, and let's see if we can make this work and get more people back into the equation. But if they take 4, that means the corner schools are going to the Big 12, and that means Oregon State and Washington State probably wind up in the Mountain West. It'd be great for the Mountain West, but there'll still be small potatoes. There'll still be group of 5. Don't confuse whatever the Mountain West winds up being with anything with neon lights wrapped around it.
Has Bill Walton ever commented on UCLA leaving the Conference of Champions?
I have not heard that. I think indirectly he said he was not happy about the outcome and the way it was handled.
Because he's such a homer for the conference.
Sure. Conference of Champions.
Yeah.
I know it's easy. Social media, just where's Pac-12? Kick them, stomp on them.
Yeah.
Pour gasoline on to throw a match.
Yeah.
That's unfair. Conference has so much history, such a legacy. I hate to see it and the way it's ended. Okay, we move on. So here's Chris. He says, Angels, massive mistake not trading Ohtani. They are not going to go anywhere in the playoffs. 6 teams in front of them in the wild card for the Halos to make it. And without Trout till September also. Yeah, they're running uphill. I buy a piece of that. But how could ownership trade that guy? It's like what happened to the Red Sox in 1920 when they gave away for money. They gave Babe Ruth to the New York Yankees. That owner never, ever lived it down. You did hear about the curse of the Red Sox. That sucker went from 1920 till they finally won a ring under Theo Epstein.
Mm-hmm.
So, my gut feel is Arte Moreno could not own this team, show his face in Orange County if he traded Ohtani. I don't care what the haul of players was. If you're going to condemn anybody, maybe you condemn Moreno for a little bit for what all the mistakes he's made. Maybe you condemn the system, because the system is what will force their hand. But who's to say? I mean, Ohtani sees the addition of 7 players in about a month span, the rental players, but they're trying to get there. They got a load of young pitching. 2 years ago, they drafted 21 pitchers. Of the 21 draft picks, all of them were pitchers. Now, they've traded some of those pitchers away now. But Ohtani can see that. And maybe Ohtani is cut from a different cloth. Maybe he likes small market. Maybe he likes Southern California. Maybe he does not want to go to Seattle, even though they got a great history with the Ichiro Suzuki era. Maybe he doesn't want to be a Yankee, or I don't think he's going to be a Met, because I don't think the Mets can now convince him, come play for us, considering the Mets just gave away all their pitchers.
Yeah.
I think the Mets invariably took themselves out of the Ohtani market for what they did. So even our executive producer, the barking black Labrador retriever, agrees with us.
Yeah.
So, is it over? I hope it's not over. There's still, 50 plus games to play. Maybe something will change in Angel Stadium, but the injury thing has just kind of crushed the franchise.
Yeah. And it's just, they've been cursed for so long. And, it was a surprise that Ohtani went there in the first place.
He took a discount to go.
Yeah. That really, because I thought, the Padres had a shot at it. AJ Preller was learning Japanese on his own, but still Shohei Ohtani, is a bit of a mystery to Americans, because he speaks a different language, but you don't really hear a lot about who he is and what he really wants in his future.
Very private person, very conservative person. But I'll tell you what, he's one of the few players in modern day baseball. I stop what I'm doing to make sure when he's coming up to the plate, I just want to see.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what he's accomplished as a human being on the mound and a DH, and the demands on a player to grind through a 162 game schedule with the demands on him.
Mm-hmm.
What a phenomenal human being. If he leaves, I say thank you for what he gave us in Southern California. And I don't care if he becomes a Dodger, Mariner, New York Yankee, or whomever. Say thank you, because he came here at a discount price, and geez, that's a Hall of Fame guy, I think.
Yeah, that's all you can do is thank him. I mean, here's another Ohtani comment, and this one is from Brett, and he says, I don't think Ohtani will sign with the Dodgers. And
Well,
that's the odds-on favorite, right?
I think it has to be the favorite. Why would you say that though, Brett? It's Dodger Stadium. It's a franchise with a history of players from the Pacific Rim. I mean, the Dodgers, outside of breaking the color barrier with Jackie Robinson and what the Dodgers did in Cuba in the 1950s with, I think the first one was young outfielder Sandy Amoros.
Oh, yeah.
What the Dodgers did in Mexico with Fernando Valenzuela, which is really hard to get players out of that country. And then what the Dodgers did in Japan, what they did in Korea, what they did in Taiwan. So how can you say they should not sign the guy? I mean, their reputation dealing with international players precedes the Dodger logo. So why would you say that they won't get him and they just don't think they have a chance to get him? Why would you say that?
Yeah. Again, everyone is trying to get inside Ohtani's head, and no one really knows. But you just see all this behind the curtain maneuvering to get it prepared for his free agency, and the talk of the trades and everything else. This is going to be an incredible offseason. And there's going to be 3 or 4 teams that are going to be all in. And you'd hate to be one of the ones that doesn't get them, because who's your fallback guy? Who's your plan B? There's nobody.
Well, you take your best shot, and it'll be up to him and his handlers as to location. And my own gut feel, just observing what he does, and have been taking part in an odd Zoom call with he and his interpreter, it's not about the money. It's about the environment and the unique situations in the community. It's just not, I don't think it's about the money. The agents might make it about the money, but
no, it's about the money.
I think he's a hell of a guy. I'm so intrigued by who he is and what he has accomplished. Let's take a couple more on Fans Forum.
All right. So let's go here to Chris, and he says, Apple TV, Peacock TV, ESPN Plus, just a disaster. The greed of making us fans pay for streaming services.
The landscape has changed. John, you're correct. Your wife's going to be peeved if you cancel cable and she doesn't get CNN and Turner Classic Movies. But I guess it's the new world that we have to live in, that it'll be, quote, a la carte, but you got to pay for everything that's on that menu.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a big issue. And maybe I'm old school. Of course I am. I got gray hair. Maybe I'm old school, but I'm used to punching it up and watching college football on Saturday. And if it's a marquee game in the SEC, I know where it's going to be. And if it was the Pac-10 or then the Pac-12, I knew where it was on ABC. Or if it was Saturday Night Football that pioneered the first time, Saturday Night Football on ESPN. It was just fascinating stuff, but it's everything has now been fractured, fragmented, and you got to pay for this, that, and the other. It's like going to your favorite restaurant of college football, but for you to get the glass of water and then get the bottle of Coke and then to order the salad, you got to pay a significant price for everything that's on that menu. Does it turn people off? Maybe it does. Maybe this is all going to come back to haunt college athletics and the way it's being structured and packaged right now.
Well, you have to pay cable TV, and the cable TV prices have been going crazy for the last couple of decades. So to me, I think this whole streaming model is an opportunity to blow that cable monopoly thing up. And then we can pick and choose what we want. Now, hopefully we can pick and choose exactly what we want rather than having to buy 40 channels. That was the problem with cable. I mean, 80% of the channels I never use. So is it greed? Well, the systems, it's evolving, and the revenue streams are just different. And frankly, I think for a lot of TV advertisers, they're finding that there are other ways they can reach their customers, and old school TV ads aren't nearly as compelling.
I got 500 channels on my TV outside of the Golden Retriever channel. I can't watch the rest of it. I don't care about the rest of it. Why am I paying for it?
You're paying for it. It's all in there.
Okay.
So,
on we go. A couple more questions here.
Okay. So this is from Greg, and he says, do you think the Chargers will ever come back to San Diego?
No, not at all. I mean, there's money to be made in LA. They've kind of got a sweetheart deal. I do think what's going to happen is the Chargers are going to be sold. I think Spanos, because of all the problems he's got with the bank loans that he's had to take to make this move, and the fact that obviously there's an inheritance tax, there's a big issue with the Spanos estate, that what they're going to have to pay based on the value of the franchise with the passing of the senior Spanos. I think we're going to wake up one day and he's going to wind up selling a team, but I don't think it's coming back here because there's no stadium here. And to get a Jeff Bezos or somebody else who still wants into the NFL to come, he'd have to pay to build the stadium, which is monstrously high. He'd have to pay whatever the significant fee is to buy the LA Chargers and then move them back. I hate it. I hate it that they left. I hated it that he screwed 55 years of fan loyalty here. I just can't forgive the Spanoses, not just for what they did to me and my broadcast team and then my radio station, but what they did to you and what they did to all the fans. Yeah. I mean, 55 years of loyalty. And my argument, and I've said this at speaking engagements, I hope Justin Herbert goes 17-0 because I think he's a really good quarterback. And I hope Dean Spanos goes 0-17. I'm sorry, I need psychoanalytical analysis, but that's what I feel about the Chargers, the quarterback, the players versus the Chargers owner and what he did to our community. Am I right? Am I wrong? I'm sure you'll tell me.
It's so tough being a San Diego sports fan. I mean, the Clippers left. If you go way back, the Rockets left. I mean, the Chargers, they're not coming back. The Chargers aren't. But I have hope with this Stan Kroenke thing with the sports arena and maybe an NBA and NHL. You know, there's some possibilities there.
You're a fan, fanatical.
Okay.
A little bit out of the loop, but that's okay. All right, a couple more here.
Okay, let's get one here from John. He says, if I were Washington, Oregon, I wouldn't let the door hit me in the ass. Heck, the Big Ten would almost have an entire Pacific Coast division with SC, UCLA, Oregon, Cal, Stanford, and Washington.
Well, I concur with you, but I guess the question is, if you're the Oregon Ducks or you're the Washington Huskies, you want to walk around the streets with blood on your hands? Because the history were right. You left for a big payday and you destroyed a conference that had been in operation since 1915. Do you want that stapled to your resume? Period, exclamation point. I guess I'm old school. I'm big on loyalty. I'm big on history and legacy. And there's so much there. And, you know, part of me says, I understand it becomes big business. And John, you're correct. That'd be kind of a unique Western division if that happened. But at the end of the day, part of me also says, I hope USC and UCLA get killed going to the East Coast to play all these games in the upper Midwest.
Well, you know, it's funny. If those teams all became the Pacific Division of the Big Ten, then it's like we have the PAC-8 again. You know, it's like going back to what we used to be. And, you know, maybe Utah doesn't come along for the ride, but you know, it just everything is shifting right now. And you're right. People on social media are just kicking the Pac-12. You know, they've been called dead. You know, they figure it's over for these guys. I'm wondering if they're going to surprise us with the TV deal.
So the burning question is, what do you tell Oregon State and Washington State, who played in this conference since the 1920s? Sucks to be you.
Yeah.
Tough crap. That's not fair.
Mm-hmm.
And they've worked really hard. Washington State has really good football teams, and Oregon State has resurrected that football program probably 3 or 4 times. And you're going to say, goodbye, see ya.
And then imagine if that happened. So Washington, Oregon, Cal, Stanford, SC, UCLA, all in the Big Ten. Washington State, Oregon State go in the Mountain West. Arizona, the 4 corner schools, Arizona State, Utah go to the Big 12. Where does that leave San Diego State? They're left on an island. They're screwed completely.
No, they're in a Mountain West conference. It'll probably have a little bit bigger TV contract because you're adding the Beavers and you're adding the Cougars from the Pac-12. But it'll still be a group of 5.
Exactly.
Good luck to you.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed everything we've tried to do today on our Thursday podcast. Brought to you by Dixon Line Lumber and Home Center. Fix it, build it, and enjoy it.